Hello friends, welcome to C Sharp Intermediate to Advanced tutorial. Now you are watching final part of the subseries C Sharp StatusStrip control. In this video, we are going to learn Spring property for the status slats. So Spring property is useful to span the status slat to occupy the free space. Here if you see, these are all the free space, right? So the status label will expand based on the content which we display in the status labels. But still, here we see there are unoccupied space. So with the Spring property, we can span the status label to occupy the unoccupied space. Let's quickly review what we saw in the previous 6 parts. So first we learned about the StatusStrip control. Then we talked about the example. After that, in the form load, we handled the initial text for our 3 status slats. Next, we saw how to display the status label text in a long-running process. After that, we learned about the render mode property. Using that, we saw 2 different styles. One is system and another one is a professional style. Then we saw how to apply border style based on its border side property. Okay, now we will look at the Spring property of the StatusStrip control. So our example contains 2 checkboxes. Even though we have 3 status slots, we are going to study the Spring property using these 2 status slots. We know that our status slot contains, our StatusStrip control contains 3 slots, slot 1, slot 2 and slot 3, and this spaces is unoccupied space. So chk spring lb1. So this is that control, and we are handling the checked changed event, and we are checking when this checkbox is in checked state. We set slabel1 dot spring equal to true. So if we uncheck it, then we are setting the Spring property to false. So it's just a straightforward. The same thing we are doing for our second checkbox also. We are handling the event, then we are setting the Spring property to true or false based on the checkbox check state. So as already told, this is the StatusStrip control, slot 1, slot 2 and slot 3. So this space is unoccupied space, and when we set the Spring property for this label 1, what happens, the space for these 2 is fixed. So they occupy same space 3, 2, and you can see this space is completely occupied by 1. That means this is expanded to use this unoccupied space, and that comes here. Now if we set the spring property to both the label, then status label 3 is fixed. Why? Because we are not setting spring property to it, so 3 will have its space, and after allocating that we have this free space, and that will be equally shared by 1 and 2. Alright, so this is 1, this one is 2. That's all here. Now we will go to the code and see how it works. So we will go to our design view. First we will select this control, choose properties, let us pin this, going to events and double clicking checked changed. The same way we have to implement the event for our next checkbox also. Alright, so the code is straightforward, and we already explored it in the PowerPoint slide. Now let us run this. Here let me go for professional style. Let me turn on edged and all 4 side. Now we will look at the spring label, and if we want to compute something we can do that also. Alright, so you can see this space is unallocated, and when we are computing you can see how status slat 1 is expanding, and after that it is compressing when the slat is assigned with the text ideal. So now you will see computing please wait, and this slat will expand. Free space is now this, and once ideal is set, free space is more. Now let me spring this first slat. Spring in the sense it will expand, and you can see now this is ideal. And if I do compute summation, you can see how it is working. Right now you can see ideal, last input, edged, and when I click compute summation it will still expand and go back. Alright, so edged, now we will go for sunken, and you can see now if I turn on this first slat spring property to true, the space is, so this is the remaining space, right? This space will be occupied by both, and here you can try for the status label 3 also, and you can turn it on, so the slat will be equally occupied by all three status slats. Alright, we just completed our example. That's all here. Thank you for watching. Bye.